I'll call the meeting to order, and I guess I'll go to my clerk first for roll call, and I believe we're going in camera.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 24th council meeting. I'm Jennifer Connor, Clerk of Ramara Township. I'll begin with roll call of council. Mayor Clark.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Bell.
Present.
Councillor Snutch.
Present.
Councillor Fisher.
Present.
Councillor Tuyu.
Present.
Councillor Goff.
Present.
Councillor Bell.
Present.
Thank you.
This meeting is being streamed live on the Township of Ramara YouTube channel. Be advised that by attending a public meeting of the Council of the Township of Ramara, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and will form a part of the public record. The chair, CAO, and/or clerk have the discretion and authority to terminate or interrupt the live streaming in exceptional circumstances where the content of debate is considered inappropriate to be published. Thank you.
Okay, I'll look for a motion that we go into closed session at 6:32 p.m. to discuss matters in accordance with section 239 2B of the Municipal Act. Moved by Councillor Snutch, second by Councillor Goff. All in favor? That is carried. Let's wait. Okay, so I'll call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. I'll refer to my clerk for attendance.
Thank you. I'll do a quick roll call of council, your worship. Mayor Clark,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Bell,
Present.
Councillor Snatch,
Present.
Councillor Fisher,
Present.
Councillor Tuyu,
Present.
Councillor Goff,
Present.
and Councillor Bell.
Present.
We have quorum, your worship.
Thank you. I take it we're going to do our announcement again, are we not? Because I got public here now, so we should probably do the announcement. All right, let's go.
This meeting is being streamed live on the Township of Ramara YouTube channel. Be advised that by attending a public meeting of the Council of the Township of Ramara, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and will form a part of the public record. The chair, CAO, and/or clerk have the discretion and authority to terminate or interrupt the live streaming in exceptional circumstances where the content of debate is considered inappropriate to be published. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You were recording.
Yeah, I guess I was recorded as well, was I? So, okay, I think I'm back live now. So I'll start out by saying under my remarks, I guess it was June 7th, we had the opening of the playground equipment over at Bluebird. Jill Dunlop joined us. I know CEO Dunn was there. I'm trying to look around council, Councillor Goff, Councillor Snutch, Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Tuyu. There was a good turnout. Managed to get the pictures in before the rain. It worked out okay. Everybody got wet setting us up, but then we took the good part, the pictures, and then left staff in the rain to pack it up after we left again. But hey, we got the important stuff through. Just a reminder to everybody, next Monday is Canada Day, so please take the time to fly a flag and really reflect on the great country that we do live in. When you look at what's going on around the world, we really do take it for granted how good we have it here in this country. So get out and celebrate or have a toast or at least call a friend and wish them happy Canada Day. Look for other members of council have been out and about at functions. Oh, lots of hands. I'll start. Councillor Bell, I'll start at this end.
Okay, thank you. The Bluebird Park, there was also a new park at Lagoon City, and even though there was no photo opportunity there, I just want to acknowledge the Trillium Foundation and all the work of staff, because we do have both parks. And then on the Canada Day front, the Lagoon City Boat Parade is on at 1 o'clock on the Saturday afternoon. So if anybody's out and about, come and see the decorated boats. And also the Ramara Historical Society. There were a number of us there, Councillor Fisher, Snatch, and I think Councillor Tuyu arrived as well. So that was a great night. It was 20 years of the Historical Society and 30 years for Ramara Township. So it was a great event.
Good, perfect. And thank you for representing me at that because I was in St. Thomas. So, Councillor Tuyu.
Councillor Fisher and I had an opportunity to represent the township in promoting healthy and sustainable living at the One Simple Seed family event hosted by Parent Council at Twin Lakes Secondary School, where students and guests were able to showcase the community, how the community can access, grow, and prepare their own healthy food. We were grateful for the invitation to be able to connect with families and share details of our trails and our seed library. I had a fantastic time at the Laugh for Lake Simcoe comedy show this past Saturday night, which was a fundraiser organized by Claire Malcolmson of Rescue Lake Simcoe Coalition. A veritable who's who of the conservation scene was there, and what a great way to have fun at the same time as promoting conservation efforts.
Great. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor. So yeah, we did the seed event. We also did the community gardens as well. And I'll be happy to report, Councillor, to you. I know that you saw my potatoes growing in the reusable grocery bag, and they are certainly growing. It's certainly something that's working. So more to come on that from the Rooted in Ramara Committee. Some of the other things that happened this month, I attended the final third Master Gardener series that the library put on. The Friends of the Library had promoted and we had partnered with them at the Rooted Committee, and they did a Master Gardener series and had Master Gardeners come in and do that. So that happened, as well as I was also at the event. But the one thing that I did and I really enjoyed doing was an event that was put on by Roma. It was called Teeny Tiny Summits. And it was an experience. We had a guest speaker all the way from Australia. And let me tell you, there was some great ideas, great initiatives that he had brought forth that other communities were using. So I really look forward on how we can implement them within our township. And I know that CAO Dunn and I have had a conversation once already about what we can do to start getting some economic development in this community. From what I learned from Peter Kenyon was his name that came up from Australia to speak to us there. It was an amazing event, and I actually implore council, if you ever have the opportunity when the teeny tiny summits come on, it blew the expectations out of the water. Like, it was absolutely wonderful event.
We'll have to watch for that next time. Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Well, yeah, it was a busy month. Yeah. The Ramona Hall volunteer appreciation. I think there's quite a few of us there. Your worship, you were, as well as Councillor Snutch and Councillor Tuyu. I also attended the Warden's Gala, which was a lovely night with you and your wife. And that's it.
We raised just over 40,000 for United Way Simcoe Muskoka at the Warden's Gala this year. So that brings it now just over $1 million we've raised in the last 15 years. And yes, and there was quite a turnout at the Ramona. We had to sit at different tables. We had to watch the quorum. So CAO Dunn, I'll call you that even though we haven't passed the bylaw yet, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of council, members of the gallery. This is a first address for Dunn as your CAO and CAO comments. Staff are busy. They were busy today and they'll be busy tomorrow. They're working with a videographer to create recruitment videos that'll be used for marketing for both full-time, part-time, and seasonal staff. A really big initiative. I believe it will be really leveraged from a marketing perspective. Mr. Mayor, you've commented about Canada Day as we all move into the long weekend. A couple of reminders for residents. The Township Admin Building will be closed on July the 1st. Regular office hours will resume on Tuesday the 2nd at 9 a.m. After all the rain, this may be a redundant point, but it's important nevertheless. Please, throughout the summer, be mindful of fire danger ratings. You can see that not only on the township website, on Fire and Emergencies Services webpage, and at the entrance to the municipality, there are signs that post the fire danger rating. Very important as we celebrate Canada Day, fireworks. A reminder that fireworks are not permitted within the boundary of Lagoon City at any short-term rental accommodation, or when a fire ban is in effect across the municipality, or on the municipality's the township's land. On Canada Day, fireworks are permitted between dusk and 1 a.m. And please be mindful of restrictions. Not certain that they will be in force and effect, but please check regarding restrictions associated with fire danger. Big project, construction of Ramara Road 47 is nearing completion. The first course of asphalt on the road should be placed this week. And it is anticipated that the project should be completed by the end of July. For those of you that do attend the Ramara Center, please be mindful. The summer camp programs are commencing next week. So give some extra due diligence. There'll be a number of additional children in and about the Ramara Center. Please take care. And Mr. Mayor, members of council, members of the gallery, please have a good Canada Day with family and friends. I'd just like to double down on we all should be thankful for being able to live in Canada and reside in this municipality. Happy Canada Day.
Thank you. So with that, Jen, I will jump back and do the closed camera motions now. We'll get them through. So do you have the first one then? Because you've got the list of names.
that we discussed board and committee appointments to various committees and that the candidates be so advised of their appointments.
Okay, we'll move by Counselor Goff, second by Deputy Mayor. All in favor? That is carried. So we'll inform the candidates before we announce it. Okay, thank you. Next, I have that the closed session council minutes dated May 27, 2024 be adopted as presented. Moved by Counselor Fisher, second by Counselor Snutch. All in favor? That is carried. And lastly, I have that the closed session committee of the whole report dated June 3rd, 2024 be adopted as presented. Moved by Counselor Bell, second by Counselor Goff. All in favor? That is carried. So now we are on to the adoption of the agenda. That the council agenda dated June 24th, 2024, in additions there to be adopted as presented. There is a change to the agenda under immediate attention. We're looking at rescheduling our committee of the whole, our next committee of the whole for July 8th. So we'll discuss it at that time. So we'll add that to the agenda. On that, any other additions? I think so. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Counselor Goff, second by Counselor Fisher. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So open forum regarding any agenda items. I don't think we had any online. So do we have any in person? Come on up, Ken. I'll need your name and address for the record. And I believe it's 1 minute.
Ken Ciardo, 4478 Orkney Heights in Ward 3. Tonight, with the adoption of meeting minutes for May, one of the items was the so-called interest-free loans if necessary clause that I guess becomes law of the land today. My question is, in 2023, I believe the books are going to be read this evening. Was it necessary to use general revenue taxes in this manner? Because I'm wondering where in the financial statements that can be found, because I looked through and I couldn't find any mention of these kind of appropriations. My second question has to do with there are going to be some bylaws passed tonight, and one of them regards the area specific for Ramara Road. At the last meeting I attended, I asked a question about they said there's going to be an open house in June regarding the Ramara Road project. Did that meeting take place, or is that going to be taking place at a future date?
Not a question time, but I think that meeting is going to take place in a future date. It hasn't happened yet.
I didn't miss it.
No, you didn't miss it.
Okay. My final question is, in the various development charge bylaws, there's a thing called in lieu of cash payment clauses, and it goes through and identifies the trigger mechanisms for these, or whenever a development charge is authorized. I would like to have an explanation when the township, or I'm not quite sure who decides to take something other than cash payment in lieu. How is that communicated to the community? Specifically, if water and sewer, apparently they need a lot of money. And if a decision is made, well, we won't take the cash, we'll take something else. I'm just curious, is there some kind of requirement? Does council need to know? Does staff have to tell council? Does the public have a right to know when money wasn't taken, something else was done? Like I said, there might be, I was looking at the soft items.
Yeah.
So if, for example, a house gets built, the library is supposed to get money, but they don't get money, is the library somehow compensated for they didn't get the money, the township got something hopefully more valuable than the money? is the library indemnified for that loss?
I will ask the question when that comes up.
Thank you.
That gives staff time to do their research. All right. Any other comments on the agenda? Not seeing any, so I will go to adoption of minutes. That the council meeting minutes dated May 27th, 2024 be adopted as presented. Moved by Counselor Fisher, second by Counselor Tuyu. Questions from the minutes? Not seeing any. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. That the special council meeting minutes dated June. Yes. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't have a chance. I was trying to get there in time. On the minutes on Poplar and Lake parking lot estimate, sorry. Right now we have, and that staff report a draft communication plan and draft survey for community engagement with respect to the proposed parking lot. Just we added to that. So like more specifically, we were going to say, if not a parking lot, what would go there? Like, so I just think the motion just needs to be that we carried was actually a little bit broader. So it was with respect to not necessarily that it was a parking lot, but just with respect to how would that piece of property be used? What was the community hoping for?
Yeah, what were we doing a sign? Remember, we did discuss that. Josh, do you remember what we were gonna put that we were doing a mail out, or were we actually gonna put a sign on the property? I'm trying to.
I believe it was both, a mail
Yeah.
out with a sign
Yeah,
to identify the area. That way it draws attention and you get the response through the mail.
and then get responses. So what do you have in mind for on the sign? Like potential site of a parking lot,
Yes.
looking for comments.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So we can come up with some sort of sign and present it to council before we put it up. That way
Yeah.
you guys can comment on
So
it.
it'll come back to us to see it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so no, because I was just, because the motion just says proposed parking lot. And then, so I'm just afraid that residents are going to read it and think that the only option they have is a parking lot versus might they want other things there? It could be a parking lot plus other things, or it could only be a parking lot or whatever. But I just don't want them, I don't want people to read the motion later and say, oh, we're not being given a choice. We're being told it's a parking lot. What do you think? Versus we're being given a choice about what would go on that piece of land. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just think it's not the same thing. And that's what we said the engagement would be what would you want there? Parking lot might be one of the things. but there could
I
be
thought
other
we were just considering a parking lot, but you wanted open to suggestions if people have other, I'm sure they would tell us if they did, but
Yeah, I guess, I mean, it's okay. I guess it's just the wording is just closing it to parking lot only. And I thought we were saying if there was room for something else that we had the opportunity for, like, I know at point, just for an example, people talked about, could there be a dog park there that is walkable? So
Oh.
could there be both spaces? Do you know what I mean? So I just don't know if we want to close it to parking lot only. And I thought that when we talked about it, we said we were leaving it more open to just what things could go
I'm
there.
fine with either way. So the feeling of council, deputy mayor, and then I'll look to the clerk for direction.
If that was changed from a parking lot, though, that would take out the ability to put your boat in, right? No, okay,
No,
so this,
it wouldn't affect the
Okay.
offload ramp there.
Okay.
There'd be no effect. It's a separate area.
Yeah, I'm
Within
fine.
the same park.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
It's
So
it's just because it's a fairly large space. I think what we were trying to do is get, so trucks and trailers could make it through. I think you were like connecting it to the other parking lot, right? And so it was just, what could we do with the whole space overall? Instead of doing two different engagements, I guess. It was just like one engagement.
look,
Yeah, the intent, I believe, was more for snowmobile parking in the winter. So pickup truck and trailer. That was the initial premise. And we were basically, from my understanding, essentially was, if you don't want a parking lot, what do you want? And it was going to be broad for any comment essentially.
okay. So, all right. So we can tweak the words to say that.
The wording that you're wanting, Counselor Bell, to be added to that.
I would just say survey for community engagement with respect to a proposed parking lot or other uses of the public land.
Okay.
All right.
Now, we'll need a mover and a seconder for that amendment, and then the minutes will be amended.
You'll move the amendment. Yep, Counselor Goff will second it. All in favor of the amendment? That is carried. Okay. Thank you. So we'll go on to 5.2 then, that the special council meeting minutes dated June 3rd, 2024 be adopted as presented. Moved by Counselor Fisher, second by the deputy mayor. Questions or comments on the June 3rd? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Do I have a disclosure of pecuniary interest from any member of council? Didn't see any. If you find yourself in that situation later, just declare it at that time. Motions of which notice has been previously given, we have nil, and public meetings, we have none. Presentations and receiving of petitions and deputations, yes. We have Elaine, oh my gosh, Elaine, I hope I pronounce, can you help? Buzovinsky? Okay, and all right. Come on up on Lakeshore Drive Water. So come on up, and microphone's right in front of you. That's what I was reminded of. There's a button that turns the mic on, the red light will come on. The center button, the large one. There you go.
There we go.
Whenever you're ready. Go
Thanks
ahead.
for having us. I'm 2555-2556 Lakeshore Drive, permanent resident year-round, 10 years as of this August. And this is my friend from down the road at
2568 Lakeshore Drive. And I've been a resident for 55 years.
And thanks for having us. We're here to present our petition. We recently heard a month and a half ago that water is coming down our street, and I was in shock because I had voted in 2023 no. We personally have $100,000 invested in a Waterloo bioseptic system and a well that has worked forever. And I'm like, wait a minute here, what's going on? Sewers, water. So I'm going to present the issue, concern, and resolution, and I'll be quick. So the issue is, on a petition, we now have 60% of residents on Lakeshore Drive that have said a strong no to water on Lakeshore Drive. We have water, and it's the cost for whatever reason, number one. I looked at your data intensely. I feel it's statistically skewed. You have 38 out of 89, which is 42%, which was based on putting the water on our street. 38 out of 89, which is 42%. But here's the problem. Your yeses from 2023, I can prove are 40, 50, 60% no's. As canvassing, as we've gone down the road, we've talked to many of our residents, and I have some quotes, and I'm not blaming anybody. It's just the way it is. As a parentheses, we have not been able to get a hold of 25 residents, as you were very close to the data of 28. There's been misunderstood communication. Most residents had no idea cost of information and no information from the town, just about how this is moving forward. We're looking for more communication and transparency. Some of the quotes from our neighbors that are many seniors. And I just want to say from my heart as a community member and 10 years and neighborhood watch in Oshawa way back, if I personally wanted in my house water, after talking to our residents and community members that have been here for 50 to 60, before I've been born, and I'm old, I feel, that I would even change to no, I don't need water. I don't want to stress these people out. They can't afford it. So for example, I want my yes to be a no. I thought the survey was only to gather information. Heard that once or twice. We were told by the township the cost was $6,000. Heard that a lot in our canvassing down our street, marching a lot, trying to get cottagers. Hey, somebody just drove down the road. I think that's so-and-so. Let's go have a chat. Big one. Why have I not heard anything from the township? And that's my point. We just want everybody to know what's going on and be fair. If 1/3 of our residents want water, and not that I agree with that, I think it should be a majority. If that's what it is, then that's what it is. Seniors, we have 3 properties. We are seniors. We can't afford water, especially on 2 empty lots. And for the 2 of us here as an aside, we both have driveways across the road. The LSCA will not allow a structure across the road, at least not in my lifetime, just because we're on a floodplain where we are. I have a driveway. She has a driveway. We're potentially on the hook for $80,000 to put pipes in front of my driveway. Just like these seniors. They have a structure, very small cottage in this situation with the 3. They have 2 lots across the road. They're on the hook for $72,000. I just want equity, especially for our seniors. And that's where a lot of our cottagers are. And I don't need water. We have water. We're only a cottage, and et cetera. And I mean, I don't want to overdo that. Lastly, straight data. This is where we stand. We're at 53 of 89, which is 60% no on our petition. I feel I had to put it in today. I want to get this going and see what we can do, just to be fair. I can get to 70 to maybe 75% no's. Okay, honestly. We know of, we're aware of conversations, 11 of 89 that say yes. We circled the numbers, the lots. It's been a learning curve. It's like as we march, well, wait a minute, what number was that? And we don't want any rifts. My next door neighbor wants water. I said to him, we're best friends. We love each other. Everybody's allowed a choice. And that's a big thing too. Just give us some choice. Let us talk. And our data reflects your data. We have 25 unknowns to date from everything we've done in 6 weeks. I believe your data was 28 unknowns when you said that it was 38%. So I know I can't present a motion. I'm not the council, which I was. I might run. Okay, so my motion is a request. Can council do a survey with clear costs and present transparency that 1/3 residents do want water? That's all we want. If you can show that's 1/3 residents, that's the deal, right? 1/3. We apparently, I found it at my meeting that we need 2/3. I'm not really saying that. I believe that's fair, but that's the way life works. As a 32-year veteran teacher, and we were all in the classroom when a teacher said, "Okay, class vote. Put up your hand if you want this." And you looked around, and if you had your hand down, you went, shoot, I lost. Well, our petition shows we have the majority.
Yeah.
And I'd like you to look at that. And that's it. Thanks for having us.
Yes, I can see it. And a lot of enthusiasm. And but see, you
He's enthusiasm.
I'll get you to stay here. I'll get you to stay. No, I'll get you to stay for a minute. We might have some questions from council, but you see what we struggle with. It's almost the same as elections. When you only get 40% of the people that actually take the time to vote, you try and do a survey and you get a low response. I think we did 2 surveys, did we not, on this one, Josh? At least 2, trying to get enough people to respond, did we not?
Yeah, we sent out 2 mail outs.
Yeah.
So with different options, it was water only, water and sewer. So yeah, 2022, there was the 2 mail outs that went out. So.
Yeah, because it's gone on for a while, but there was never 6,000. I don't know where that number came from. Numbers were 60 if you wanted sewer and water, I
Well, I
thought.
think the 6,000 was from 2010, 2011, when the project initially was
Yeah.
contemplated.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was 15 years ago.
Yeah, a lot of people are bringing up the 6,000, and I didn't realize that because when this first came just 2 years prior, we had heard water's coming for 6,000. That was the rumor, but that's 12 years ago.
Well, and that's what happens. And,
Yeah.
you know, 6,000 turns into 60, turns
Yeah.
in, it just with inflation, it just keeps climbing, right? So it's a question of when. Questions from Deputy Mayor?
You did a great job on this presentation. I just had to question, what was the conversations like? How did you approach people? Like, what kind of questions rose with them or concerns? Do you know what I mean?
Great question. I did the right thing by printing out the petition, and Sherry and I, she knows everybody. She's been in the area for almost 60 years. Down my end, I know my 5, and I have familiar faces, but we walked down and said, first question, do you know what's happening with the water on Lakeshore Drive? No. No. What's going on? We gently, and we were in a hurry that day. It was Father's Day weekend, whatever it was. And it was like, we got to go. But I had heard the tenders are on, and it could be $26,000 per property. Would you like water? And the answers were so various. What do you mean? Why have you heard? Like I said, with we just didn't know, and we just put in a new system. We actually went across grass that was seeded, and we tripped up, and he goes, "Oh, just put in $50,000 with the water and a septic." And 2 new homes just down the road. We were told that we weren't going to get water. So, and then some people said, yeah, we want water. And another aside, which I didn't want to get into, many people did say, I would do it. We need to talk about sewers. I just didn't touch that.
Yeah.
Because that's another issue. We stuck with water. But 90% of the people had no idea what was going on. And that's what the problem is.
Now, are you in the section that is sewer and water, or just sewer? Just water? Just water, yeah. Go ahead, Councilor Snutch. Oh, I need your.
Are you saying that you never received the 2 letters that would have been sent to your house?
I did receive them, but I honestly, and that's another question for maybe another day. We have 2 properties. I only answered no to the one. And I read all the data, but I did say no. But did I say no for 2? I might be one of those 28 people that didn't respond at my property across the road.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even sure. Like, I looked at all that and I picked no, like for sure. But many of the people we talked to answer you, Keith, Senior Bell, a lot of people thought it was just, this is information. You know, would you be interested if? Not that this is going to happen.
Well, the reason I was asking is because I thought we had quotes and costs and what it would cost and all that. And I was just saying, if you didn't get it, we'll get you a copy of it. But
Oh,
I'm not sure, maybe I don't know. I know we attempted to mail something out to everybody twice. But anyways, okay, that's good.
Any other questions, the presenters? Counselor Bell?
Thank you. I think the question just is, so obviously council, we're not making a decision right at this moment. And so we'll receive what you're saying. But I think my question would be, what would you like us to do? I mean, you want us to go away and deliberate, and I know that. And so is there any specific asks that you have from us? Would you like, I know you said accountability, transparency, engagement. So I heard those pieces. So are there specific things that you would ask from us so that we can, when we discuss, make our own recommendations about what we need to do next?
well, I think specifically with right now, we have the 53, which is a majority, no matter how you slice it. There's more no's than yeses, that you relook at your data and make sure that you're basing it on 1/3 and just be transparent about that. Because I don't feel that you should move ahead with the water with what I feel from what we know is 11 properties out of 89. That's what we see. There's 11. And I have proof that there's 53 on the petition that don't.
How did you find out when would there be a difference was there, like, people say, why are we getting water? We should be getting sewer too? Like, was the sewer another additional burden or additional asset?
How would you say? Because you were always with me.
Yeah, we didn't really overly touch on the sewer at the time. Some people were asking about sewer, but they were definite no, like a lot of them had just put lots of money in to their water systems and stuff. And they were like, we don't want it.
Let's see, I know,
Solid on Lakeshore Drive with water.
because I know when we sent it out, it had the price of water and sewer.
It's
And
52.
yeah, and because, and not just sewer. I mean, we wouldn't do sewer without water, but it was the price of water and sewer and the price of water. And that's why we come up with just water, because that's what more people wanted. Personally, I think if you're gonna run one, you should run both.
Well,
but-
yeah, we all agree with that.
Yeah, Counselor Fisher.
So this is just a comment because I know we're not deciding or
No, I just want to make sure that we, so that we can take some direction. So I know some of the things you said included, building in a floodplain for the adjacent properties. And so the Conservation Authorities Act has changed as well recently as far as, setback from the high water mark. And I just don't know, when you said you couldn't build on the other property, I look at the zoning and it's zone village residential. So then I would think you can build on the other property at some point in time. So I think when we go away and deliberate, you know, we might need a staff report because we need to understand all these things. So, because I know when we also met, there was merging properties on title so that you weren't, because if your intention is to if it's always going to be a garage on the other side of the road and you can't build. So I think there's just a few things that we would want to be able to talk about. So, you know.
Well, for example, our neighbors who aren't here because they're very senior, they wanted to support me. There's no parking on their property. They have the same thing as we have, a driveway and a garage across. You can't park there. Their septic is there.
Right.
So nobody's like to put pipes in front and charge us $26,000 across the road is always going to be a drive. Even if it is zoned residential, you wouldn't buy a property for that amount of money and not be able to park. Like you can't sell that off.
No.
Like if I thought, okay, well, hey, I want to be a millionaire, which I don't, I'll sell the other side. No, that's our property to park on.
Can't
Well, and that we
Yeah.
can certainly look at in a bylaw. If it's a building lot, well, that's different.
Yeah.
If it's a non-building lot and can't be built on, then yes, then they can be exemptions for that. And in the past, we've done phase-ins, like if you've got a new sewage treatment system. I know when we did the expansion in Bay Shore, oh, what's the little street to the south, Joe, on the water? Yeah, Southview. When we did that, if somebody had a brand new system, there was a phase-in period. They could use their system for, I think it was 5 years. This is a very old bylaw. Have it inspected and then, but by 10 years, they had to phase it
Right.
out. So we let people try. And so that can all be done at the time of the bylaw to work around special circumstances, right? Did I see? Yeah, Councillor Fisher.
Thank you. Again, I know we're not debating this tonight because we're not even close to making a decision. However, the one thing that we do need to keep in mind, you heard Josh say 10 and 11 years ago, it was only $6,000. So there will be a time, especially being on a lake, where we will be forced to have to hook you up. And I'm afeared if we defer it even longer, then maybe next time when we are forced, it'll be closer to $50,000 or $75,000. So we also have to keep other considerations in mind too, knowing that there's a lot of lots. I also recognize I have friends who live on Lake Shore. They do have water, but not always in the winter because they're drawing their water from the lake and the foot valve gets frozen.
Right.
So we do have a lot of seniors who are worried about that. I have friends who wife is very nervous about the cost moving forward. The husband won't say in front of his wife, but is very excited because he's not well and is worried what's going to happen to his wife having to do it. Some of the reasons why some of these lots might be undevelopable is because there's actually no room on the lot for a building lot to have a septic and a well for setbacks. So it might actually increase some of the values of the property as well. But I agree, when we look at that, we should be looking at merging properties on title just so that there's only one standby fee moving forward.
I will say council did decide to go ahead with the project though, because I know the engineering, I believe, has been completed and all the costs of the engineering. Though I don't think we've sent the tender out yet, but it might be out, it might not be. We'll have to check. It hasn't been sent yet. So
yeah, we're in final design for the project and we were anticipating to go to tender like late summer.
So there will be another discussion when it comes back on the tenders. But yes, we'll receive your deputation. We're going to have some more discussion on this. So you did have a comment. Sorry, I saw. Are you good?
No, I forgot.
All right, Councillor Snodge.
Just if the second lot, if council can figure out a way to resolve the second lot issue, and at what range would you be supportive of the project? What would you need to be supportive of the project? Like, would you need to, like, we've proposed how much it's going to be to do it and how long you pay that back for and what the interest rates are and all that. Do you or your group have an idea of what you would say, geez, I'm really happy now. This is what.
Well, we're definitely going to be trying for a grant. That was, yes.
Okay, no, good point.
Well, definitely not making us and all the other people with 2 lots paying for 2.
Oh, no, I wrote that down.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, that. I feel that eventually
I didn't know they weren't buildable before. As soon as you said the Lagoon City.
they are, can't change them.
Yeah.
Like, even if they are, the way the properties are, they're separate properties, you're not gonna do that. That's your driveway. Like, you have a situation, her septic is.
No, but there's a difference between
Yeah.
authority saying you can't
Yeah.
build rather than you making the decision
Yeah,
that it wouldn't be practical for you to
Right.
build.
okay.
Okay, Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Yeah. And I just want to say, I know it's nerve wracking when you're up here
Yeah.
presenting, but we did have a meeting with Josh and with the clerk as well. And so some of what has been presented tonight, like what you were saying, Jen, about the increasing cost, that was discussed. So I think that all of the people who are involved know that the longer we wait, the more that this cost is increasing. And we know that just based on 6,000 versus 25,000. So I think Elaine and the rest of the group know kind of all those issues as well. And I know it's a lot to remember to say when you're up here, all the different things that were talked about. So I think you're coming at it from knowing a lot of those things. So I think when council does have a discussion about it, we know all the different things that you brought. And even from the meeting, I think we know what was discussed. Jen will have, the clerk will have recorded the minutes from that meeting or the notes from that meeting anyway. So that would help probably council anyway to know some of the other things you've brought that are a lot to try to bring in a short deputation.
The
Okay.
pipes in the road subsidized by the government, not us. And then choice for lateral. That's the perfect world in my book.
Yeah.
Not the 26 or 30,000 for pipes. Just somehow make it cheaper and have people have a choice. just like Rogers. Rogers dug it all up, put in 5G. I chose it, you didn't. I'll pay the 150, you don't. And then just, it's choice. That's all. In the perfect world, I know that's not how it can work, but that's what I like.
All right. All right. Okay.
Not because you
Okay.
asked not.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Okay, thank you for listening.
All right, so I have a motion to council receive the deputation by Elaine Bozovensky regarding halting municipal water on Lakeshore Drive as presented. Moved by Councillor Goff, second by Councillor Snutch. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much. And now we have Baker Tilly here with our audit report. So whenever you are ready, sir. Yeah. Apparently your accounting is not as exciting as the hockey game, sir. So you're going to have to accept that you're going to lose some folks tonight.
Yeah, I guess doing this for over 30 years, I'm kind of used to this by now. So yeah, excuse me. Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Oh, okay. All right. So yes, here tonight to present the comparative analysis PowerPoint presentation of the year-end results for the Township of Ramara. Also within the agenda package are the detailed financial statements, but most people find this presentation easier to follow. So hopefully I will can enlighten you and then show you the differences as well between both PSAB reporting and how you internally report and set your tax rates as well. So first off, on the following slide, you will see that a summary of the independent auditor's report. So this is our report on the financial statements. The report is a 2-page document. It remains consistent with the prior year. And so we pulled out what we consider to be the important paragraph that, in our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the township at December 31st and the results of its operations and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So that is your standard clean, unqualified auditor's report that you've seen before. Keep in mind when we say consolidated, the numbers in the presentation include the township plus the library plus the Lagoon City parks and waterways, so that they're all combined within the consolidated statements. And as well too, when we say public sector or PSAB, you'll see I'll note a few changes of standards that changed during the year, and they do have an impact on how your financial results are presented. Next, just a summary of what we do as part of the audit and what we look at in a summary basis. And all of this is for our goal of gathering the evidence so we can produce our auditor's report. And as well, so that involves doing sampling, looking at analytical review, management estimates, and then as well too, looking at your documentation and related control testing, looking at the inflows, the outflows of monies, as well as how you adjust things through journal entries. And we do that through a combination of a number of tests, and as well too, we also use data analytics procedures as well to accomplish that and gather that evidence. And then next slide, you will see there where things are at. The audit is complete pending council approval of the financial statements, as well too as getting some letters back from both management and your legal firm. Overall, there were no significant difficulties encountered during the course of the audit. And as well too, just the final bullet point there in that section was additional audit procedures were required for presentation and disclosure related to asset retirement obligations and financial instruments. So that those are the two new PSAB sections that impact the township this year. And as well too, there were a few items similar to in the past, items that were not adjusted as usual. The accrual of the interest on the long-term debt has not been recorded, and that's to tie in with the way you budget for those debt payments. That was a difference of about 60,000, and then there's a possible understatement of your allowance for uncollectible amounts for about 161,000. And when you add those two together and subtract off last year's amounts in relation to that, the net difference is $158,000, which is well below the materiality amount of 650,000. So therefore, just making you aware that we're not requesting an adjustment, but just as a result of the audit. And those estimates, potentially those item, the allowance amount might change. It all depends on the work that will be done by your staff in 2024 to work on some of those older receivables. So that's just the summary of the audit piece. Now we come to taking a look at some actual numbers for the municipality. And PSAB breaks down the statement of financial position into financial assets. So these are your assets that you have that are either cash or will be turned into cash. And you can see there that there was a decrease this year. Of course, acquiring some more investments reduced your cash balance as well too. You acquired a fair bit of capital assets during the year. So there's been a shift between financial assets and non-financial assets. So that's majority of the change there. Of course, you still have some receivables from various levels of government. One of the biggest one being the HST was in your receivable. Your taxes receivable, although it went up, the percentage of your total levy is 9.74%. So that's below the low risk range that the province sets for you. So you're still within, as I said, the low risk range. So that remains a nice position. And two, it was a nice improvement if you look back in 2020 when you're over $3 million. So that was nice to see that improvement there. You still have some land held for resale in the industrial park, some longer term receivables in relation to the Brecken sewers and Bayshore as well. And then your investments, you can see there, it's at a little over $10 million with your financial institution, and it's up from $5 million in the prior year. So you added $4.5 million in new investments as well, with the change of recording investments at market value. You had a pickup of a little over 500,000 on those assets. So that was another PSAB change. So that was the biggest thing there on this page for PSAB implementation changes. And next you have just a 5-year bar chart of that. Next we come to your liabilities. So these are the amounts you owe to others. Overall, with a lot of capital work going on at the end of the year, and there's also been an increase in your payables for holdbacks and constructions that was being completed, as well too, or some other items related to some tax sale proceeds that were paid over into the courts after the year end. Your deferred revenue up year over year. So this represents your Canada Community Building Fund, or your gas tax, your development charges, as well as your parkland. So these are monies you've actually received, but you haven't spent them yet in accordance with the various agreements. So therefore they sit here as a liability. And once you do spend them in accordance with that, then they become a revenue. And then as well, your long-term debt, you paid down 355,000 as anticipated. And then as well too, the other new item that impacts the township with the changes in the PSAB standards is the asset retirement obligation. So that is an estimate of what it would take to clean up the asbestos that is suspected to be in some of your buildings. So, and you can see there that amount is 325,000, which fortunately for the municipality, it's not a lot of money. And that number then just, as I said, it's an estimate of what it would cost. And keep in mind, this doesn't change how you deal with the asbestos. If you're doing work on a building and you came across it, you would have to either remediate it or abate it or some type normally. So it's for operationally, you're handling that anyways. It's just from a public sector accounting standard point of view, that estimate of that liability now has to be recorded. And of course, you only raise money to fund that when you think you're going to spend it. So therefore, you had about $22.8 million in financial liabilities. And then the following slide shows you your 5-year trend on that on a bar chart. Next slide shows you your net financial assets. And as I said, your total financial assets did decrease as a result of acquiring capital this year. So you can see there that you were building up net financial assets, and then you utilized it in 2023. And of course, you still remain in the black, because if you did go negative, it would turn red on the graph. So that's good to see that you're still there. The following page, then you will see where you use some of those financial assets. They got moved into non-financial assets, being your tangible capital assets. So you did a lot of capital work. You acquired some properties in 2023. So really you shifted the type of asset from being one that you might turn into cash to one that you now own a physical asset that you don't normally try to turn into cash. So that's explains why the previous slide, just how it went down, because it moved into tangible capital assets. And the following slide then gives you an idea of where you spent your $14 million in your capital this year. You can see there that roads and bridges, fairly consistent, is one of the larger ones, and a lot of that money being spent was spent on Ramara Road. And so that project was underway at the end of the year. So that was about $4.6 million there. And then as well too, you did acquire some vacant land within the municipality here downtown. So that has been added in your land and land improvements, and as well too added in the buildings as well. So, and then as well too, you acquired some machinery and equipment, and a portion of that being a plant harvester for the Lagoon City operations, and as well too some fire equipment for about $500,000, and as well too some roads and fire vehicles as well. So then when you take a look at your TCA additions to amortization over the last 5 years, you can see, if you recall back on your net financial assets, as you were building up your net financial assets over the last 5 years, then this year it came down. And then of course your additions to TCA went up. So as I said, you moved them from one part of the statement of financial position to the other. Next we come to your statement, the slide for accumulated surplus. And this then to me is probably about the most important slide within the deck. So overall, you have about $71.8 million in accumulated surplus on a PSAB basis, but you don't have $71 million in the bank. So, and this slide then explains that about 60 million of your $71 million of accumulated surplus is tied up either within your capital assets, being the net book value, less the debt, less the asset retirement obligations. You have some both sewer operations that were in a deficit, and then you have some net equity on your land held for resale. So it's the second part, the lower part here, that your reserve and your reserve fund. So those are the monies you have utilized moving forward. So, and you can see there that there was an overall decrease of about $7 million, and that ties in with your increased capital spending during the year. And as well too, one thing to note too, you were your water reserve did get utilized for capital as well, so that you no longer have a reserve for that. So hopefully that can be built up moving forward again. And then the following slide gives you a 5-year history of your reserves. And then we come along to just a consolidated statement of operations, and this is just presented to show why on a PSAB basis, it looks like you're looking to have about a $4.5 million surplus, which under your tax rate budgeting, of course, you're not budgeting for a surplus or a deficit. So those amounts under the reconciliation. So those are the items that are different under PSAB versus how you set your tax rate budget. Of course, you don't budget on your tax rates for amortization, but you do for the purchase of capital assets, and as well too for PSAB. long-term debt principal repayments are not an expense, but they are for your tax rate budget and as well too, your transfers to and from reserves for PSAB are not considered a revenue or an expense. So those are the differences you can see there that and so then when you take that reconciliation, it does come down to zero as it should. And I think the one thing to point out here is you can see there that you're about $3 million under in your capital spending. And then when you net your transfers to and from reserve, they were down as well about $3 million. So the net difference is consistent with just not incurring all the capital costs as anticipated. And then as well too, on the following slide, you can see there that your revenues and expenses over the last 5 years, and as well, you've always been showing it in a PSAB surplus position, and that's some of that is related to the fact that when you receive grants or use development charges or Building Canada Fund revenues to acquire assets, you record the revenue at that point in time, but the expense doesn't hit until it gets amortized. So then the following slide is right out of the statement of operations, and you will see there that there you were a little higher than budgeted in total revenues, and as well, I think maybe part of that variance comes with the donations and other line that represents within that line is the short-term rentals on properties, and that was up from the previous year. And higher than budget there. And as well too, the other larger one is your interest income was up significantly from budget. So of course, the increase in rates and having cash resources available, that caused that increase there. So and then when we following slide just gives you an idea of the just looking at the pieces of that slide, and as usual, the property taxation is the largest piece of the pie. And then next we come along to where your money went. So this is presented on a PSAB basis. And so therefore these numbers do not include capital, but they include amortization. And overall there, you can see there that you were slightly over budget in total on, and a number of things there, PSAB related that impact that number. Your amortization was higher than budgeted. You had a loss on tangible capital assets, and as well too the cost of your land sale for your property that you sold. Those three items were not. That item was not budgeted. So in total, those three items make up a variance of 632,000 of your 955,000 variance in those lines. So as I said, the majority of that are PSAB adjustments. And then you can see there, the following slide gives you an idea of the pieces of the pie there. And then just taking a look at the expenses in a different format. And this is where you can see there the amortization being higher than budget, your loss on disposal of tangible capital assets, and the cost of land sale. Those items are a variance from budget, and really then the biggest thing is some contracted services were higher than anticipated, causing some additional variances there as well. So then the following slide just gives you the pie chart of where of those type of expenses, and that is a summary of the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Now, I know, as you said, the tangible assets, one thing when you have money in the bank and you buy a building, that's still something you can sell. But you're right, when you take $1 million and you build a bridge on PSAB, you still have the $1 million in the form of a bridge, but it's not something you can sell.
No.
But it does depreciate. So when you look at the numbers, do you look into it, the fact that we're staying ahead of the depreciation, or is that not something you look into? Like, we have to spend a lot of money upkeeping our roads and you want to make sure you're building them faster than your assets are depleting. Is that something you look into in more detail, or is that something we do ourselves?
Well, I think the one thing to keep in mind unfortunately, under PSAB, everything is reported at historical cost. So
Yeah.
The amounts that you see there presented, there's no real correlation to what it would cost you to replace it. So yeah, so really, and based on the way the economies went and inflation over the last few years, you definitely want to be, if you could, be setting aside more money than the amortization to replace your cap. Yeah, but of course, it's always that delicate balance between what you raise and what you need for capital. Yes.
Yeah, well, 47 would be an example of, what it cost to rebuild it was nowhere close to what we thought it was gonna cost, right? And that can happen. But
Yeah.
Any other questions for Richard? Counselor Bell?
Thank you. I just have a couple of points of clarification just on the way that the slides are set up. And this is just because if residents look at the slides, they might misunderstand. So for example, on slide 11, it reads Parks and Waterways. And specifically, I believe that you're referring, as you said, to Lagoon City Parks and Waterways equipment and other assets. And I would just wonder if in the future it could specifically say that that's Lagoon City's Parks and Waterways, because there are other parks and waterways in the township.
Okay.
And I think that it might cause confusion about what that entry is. So that was one. And then the next one is on 17.
Well, they would all be grouped together, would they not? All parks and waterways would be grouped in that same, if there were other ones.
Yeah, that's what I just want to, just for clarification on.
Yes. So, so based, what you're saying is you would like to see them separated.
Because what happens is, generally speaking, people are very confused about Lagoon City's Parks and Waterways Commission and the levy that's raised and then how that levy is spent. And then because it shows up in always just within the overall township budget, it becomes confusing for residents to understand that whatever's being spent in Lagoon City is also being raised by Lagoon City. So I just wonder if that can show in a different way. So even when I look at slide 17 and its property taxation, and I did have a conversation with the former CAO actually about when we call it a levy in sort of layman's terms, but in reality, when you look at Bill PR 11, it is a tax. So is the tax included in this property taxation number of 15,573? So that's another thing where if that levy was shown either in its own line, and I'm not an accountant that does PSAB, but I'm trying to understand how it can be more clearly communicated to residents that tax is a separate and special tax, and it's not within the regular property taxes. So that also would be confusing, I think. And then the last one is on 18. And it references federal gas tax, and that doesn't actually exist anymore. That's the Canada Community Building Fund. So I would want it to say that, so that there's also, again, because it's been that way since 2021, and just so that there's no confusion, because whenever we use language that isn't consistent, we just end up confusing people about what we're referring to. So those are just my comments on how the information is presented.
Richard,
Yeah, I guess, sorry, if you want, in the detailed financial statements at the very end, the very last statement though does provide the Lagoon City information by itself. So yeah.
Thank you, through the chair. I do appreciate that, but I think what happens is for most people to read the whole report, it's difficult. It's difficult for anybody who's not an accountant, I think. And so this would be the presentation I would want to share. And then it might cause confusion just not having those things labeled the way that we understand what it means. That's all. It was just a thought. Thank you.
Robin, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, the councillor answered part of my query, as did Mr. Styenga at in the financial statements, Richard. They are consolidated financial statements for the corporation of the Township of Ramara. They are broken out individually, and the local boards, specifically the Public Library Board and Lagoon City Parks and Waterways, are stipulated regarding those numbers. I think it would be confusing from a lay person's perspective if you're saying on one hand a consolidated set of financial instruments, and then you're showing how that got rolled up. It needs to be both consolidated and show the individual breakout like you've done on pages 38 through 49.
All right. Did I have another? Thought I saw another hand. No other hands. Okay. That might be the fastest one ever. See, it's a lot different when we're on the positive side of the curve. I remember years ago where the auditors report, we'd be an hour and a half trying to figure out where we could get to that, as you said, not in the hazard zone anymore. Like even the overdue taxes were below the 10%. We're on 9, but we're still higher than we'd like to be. It's something I know that you're constantly working on, Minot, to try and get those accounts receivable in. Was a question earlier from a gentleman in the audience here that how do you know when we've funded the sewer and water? Well, it's when it's in a deficit. Is that not correct? When their reserves show a deficit, that means the township has loaned them the money, correct?
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think when you, that
Yeah.
one slide.
Yes, when you see a deficit, it means they're being funded interest-free from the general taxpayer. Councillor Snodge.
Yeah, you brought up the fact that the accounts receivable may be difficult to collect. I think if it's going to be difficult to collect, then there should be a confidential report prepared for council on which accounts receivable that we may be able to assist you in collecting or making decisions on what to do with it. As of this point, I don't know if you're just talking about taxes that'll be paid if the property goes up for auction or what it is, but maybe doesn't have to be right now, but maybe at the next committee of the whole, we go into closed session or something, and you just show us what the largest accounts receivables that you have that we have to deal with.
No.
If I can answer to that, I'm having my accounts receivable employee looking into it. She's been around for a long time, and I asked her to review all of those older accounts receivable and come up with the history of what happened and what has been done to try to collect it before bringing it to the attention of council.
So
Let's just make that it will come to something. But no, I don't want to see it if you haven't vetted it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you haven't vetted it, then, but I think we should say, so how do we say this? Just to make, we'll bring it up at another point. I won't.
what you're looking for is, we don't need to see specific properties. We need to know how much is property taxes that are behind, or is there
It's
a
not
lawsuit that
property
some-
taxes.
It's not.
No, it's not. Property taxes are going through the tax sale after 3 years, so
Right.
it's not part of this. Those are really accounts receivable.
All right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're working on getting more detail to council, and then if accounts cannot be collected, then we
deal
would
with
need a write-off, but only council can direct
All right.
staff to do that.
All right. So we will be looking forward to a report on that. All right.
Right.
But as far as this, Richard, any other questions for Mr. Stiganga? Sorry, I struggle with your name.
Not a problem. Yeah.
All right, I've got a motion. The council receive the presentation by Baker Tilly regarding the Township of Ramara audit. Moved by Councillor Bell, second by Councillor Goff. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Hope you have a good drive home. You
Yes.
might make, what time's the hockey game? Will we make it? Oh,
Yeah, yes.
So then that might answer my next question. Does council want to keep on or do you want to break? All right, we're gonna carry on. Thanks, Richard. So. Yeah, all right. Anybody need a break at this moment? Are we okay to? Carry on? All right. All right, so we've got consent agenda. Yeah, I don't have a motion that I guess was just the one from the AMO 10.1 that we receive as information. Moved by Councillor Snodge, second by Councillor Goff. Any questions on the consent? All in favor? That is carried. Reports from committee and boards, 11.1, that we adopt the committee of the whole report 06/24 presented, dated June 3rd, 2024 as presented. So committee of the whole, any questions arising? I don't think there was a section B. So can I have a mover? Moved by the deputy mayor, second by Councillor Tuyu. Questions on the committee? All in favor? That is carried. Next, we have Lagoon City Parks and Waterways that we received. The Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission minutes dated May 16, 2024 as information. Moved by Councillor Bell, second by the deputy mayor. Any questions or comments? Seeing any? All in favor? That is carried. So items requiring immediate attention is the first one's the Trails Committee. And anything you want to add to this Go ahead,
No,
Josh.
I don't think so. I think it's all self-explanatory. So if there's any questions, then I can answer for sure.
That's good news. We've got the First Nations willing to partnership with this one, so.
Excellent
I'll
news.
read the motion that we receive report ID 43-24 and that we support the Trails Committee with an additional $15,000 to complete trail resurfacing. Moved by Counselor Tuyu, second by Counselor Snutch. Any questions, comments? Counselor Goff.
Yeah, I'd actually watched the meeting when this was originally discussed. And I'm glad that the First Nation has partnered with it moving forward, but I just have a hard time spending the extra $15,000. I know it's just a small amount. And then we're basically committing to, I believe, $50,000 a year so that they can have a reserve fund or start building reserves. Much like any other, if we have a go for tender and the tenders are so high, then that gets put off and it gets retendered later when there's the actual money is available. I just think the Trails Committee should be aware that we'll do it this time, but maybe next time if they don't have the money, and even though it's a grant, if it's over budget, then maybe they have to wait to the next year to actually come back to budget and ask for that request.
Something we may look forward to before applying to any grants. I take it, Josh, it usually comes to council before we apply for grants, does it not?
Yes, it does. This one's kind of a special circumstance in a sense because the money was supposed to go towards the project and the project was going to be altered to make it fit within the budget, but we got approval to do that side road 15 kind of last minute. And that's been a project that the Trails Committee has been very passionate about, side road 15, and wanted to take the opportunity as soon as we got to it. So it's kind of, it snowballed in a sense. The committee wanted to do a bunch of projects, but because of the opportunity to do side road 15, it kind of put this one on the back burner, and they still want to proceed with this one as much as we can for this year. So,
And it was a council decision to divert the money to the other project as well, which pulled out of this one. So, Counselor Fisher.
Thank you again. I think we just have to be cautious when we do this, because when you look down into the financial information, should we move this money over? They're pretty close to what they had asked for at budget time, which was, I think, $60,000 for this year's budget that we felt was too much. And now we're getting pretty close to that again. I recognize it's a grant, so it's a great opportunity to use, but we just have to be very cognizant in the future that when the committees come forward to present their ask to budget, that we really need to kind of hold things to it, because it's, I understand things change, I get that, but now we had all of our departments canceling projects and deferring projects because there wasn't enough money in the budget. And I know $15,000 isn't a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but I don't think it's a good look either.
Counselor Snutch.
Wasn't this also a spend it or lose it situation?
yeah, so the $30,000 is Simcoe County matching grant. So it was proposed to the committee, the last committee meeting, essentially, if we can't find the money, then to postpone the project and reapply for it in future years. The committee came up with the idea to ask Rama and then as well ask Ramara Council. So yeah, essentially, if we didn't have the money to back our half, we would have lost the money with this one. So
yeah. Okay, any other comments on the motion? All in favor of the motion?
No, the only thing I was going to say is, I don't even know how many people use the trails, and I do. So I know I'm a big supporter of having a trail system. So I'm certainly not saying that I don't want a trail system, but I am kind of anxious for the master rec report and the reports we're waiting for that can help us better understand and more engagement on how do you use the trail, which trails do you use most, which trails do you like best, what do you think needs improvement on the trails? Like, I really am anxious to get all that kind of information, so it helps us when we're making these decisions know that we're making the right decision. So just a comment, really.
And when that master plan comes as well, we have to take another look at the Rammer Road, because at one time we were hoping to get the railway. It doesn't look like that's happening. So I know county years ago had $500,000 set aside to improve that. So we may be going back to that and saying approve. So that'll be part of the master plan, I would assume. Yes.
Yeah, and even the master plan, we are still going off, I believe it's the 2010, 2011 RJ Burnside master plan. So until the new plan is adopted, we go off the old one still.
Yeah.
So,
But you're right. It'd be nice to see the new one when it comes out. All right. So on the motion, all in favor? Opposed, if any, seeing none, so it's carried. Next, we have the addition, which is,
Your worship, do you want to discuss the changing of the meeting?
yes, that was the next one I was gonna bring up, because the regional review, though they is now in Simcoe County, according to the provincial website, on July 8th, which is our next committee of the whole, I will be presenting at that, and I think we're putting a position forward on that. Now, I'm not sure if ours went in writing, or if, well, Zach of the day, it'll be something I'll be talking with the CAO, whether we're gonna put a presentation in front of that as Ramara as well, because that's the opportunity for all the local municipalities to present our concerns about the planning and all the fun stuff happening with the regional review. So we just wanting to reschedule that committee of the whole. So what dates? We could either the 5th, the Friday before, or the 9th. So the day after. Well, county council's on its break in July. So I know I've got Tuesday off. What's the feeling of council? I'm fine either way. Yes,
I have in my calendar on the 9th that there's a planning meeting, so
like a planning meeting.
I think there was a planning hearing on the 9th.
Oh, committee of adjustment.
Yeah, we have committee of adjustment at 9:30.
I guess we can't boot them out very well, can we?
We could start the meeting later if that's.
How long are they usually, committee of adjustment?
Fine.
Really?
Well, it depends on how
Well-
many applications, right?
Yeah.
They may not have any applications moving forward, so.
If I can set it for the normal time at 9:30, I will, if they have no applications. And if they do have applications, I can coordinate when they feel that the meeting would be done and we can have our meeting after.
Are we all fine with that then? Tuesday, or anybody want the Friday? Everybody's fine with Tuesday? So I need a motion to reschedule the meeting by Councillor Goff, second by Councillor Bell. We reschedule our committee of the whole till Tuesday, July 9th from July 8th. All in favor? That is carried. Now, what's the province council after? Well, it's sick. Robin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You indicated, sir, that perhaps there may need to be use of that free Friday before the Monday if the Township of Ramara was going to make a presentation at the governance review on the Monday. Did I understand you correctly, sir?
You know, I'm not sure what Zach's plan was on that. We had a written proposal we sent in. So the question is, did we want to follow up with that with an in-person? And that's something you'd have to bring yourself up to speed on. And how comfortable are you standing in front of, and you and the deputy mayor presenting? Because I don't think I can present as mayor because I'm warden. I'll be presenting on county's behalf.
Happy to follow up after the meeting with.
Yeah, we'll have a chair, because I know we have a written one that we have sent to them. So it would be the same lines. Okay, unfinished or new business, we have none. County council up. No. What? So we voted on the date. Yeah. Question?
No, sorry.
Yeah.
David had another question though.
Oh, on the Trails Committee we've done, and
No.
this was on the changing of the date.
No. But you said you wouldn't forget.
Immediate attention to council. No, you'd have to bring that up for motions at the end. Request for reports is what Dave's gonna bring at the end. That'll be, we're not there yet. So
sorry.
unfinished new business, I have none. County council update. So we've got the highlights that the county council highlights dated June 16th, 2024 be received for information. Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Fisher. Questions, comments? All in favor? That is carried. And then I have the county council highlights dated May 28th, 2024 be received for information. Moved by Councillor Tuyu, second by Councillor Goff. Questions or comments? Not seeing any. All in favor? It's carried. Announcements and inquiries, members of council. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, through you to the CAO, please.
Again,
Just double checking on the open house dates for the OP. And then because piggybacking on that was going to be the questions around the Rammer Road corridor servicing, and residents actually asked me today, do we know when that's going to happen? And I don't know if how far you're advanced yet. I know you're just getting into everything, but do you know when those dates might be, or do you have any ideas?
Counselor, I can tell you that I'll have an idea tomorrow afternoon. We've got a senior leadership team tomorrow afternoon. I'll be speaking with the director and be in a position to be able to push out an email regarding that status before we shut down for Canada Day.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
and then possibly get it on the website. Or do you need council approval for, no, you already got permission to go ahead with it. It's just a matter of scheduling. Councillor Snutch, I think, had your hand up, and then Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A comment that Mr. Dunn made earlier about the fireworks. I just want to clarify. I may be wrong, but I thought the fireworks were allowed all weekend on the long weekend during those hours, not just on July 1st.
I clipped Counselor from the website. I'm still getting used to all the bylaws, but fireworks are permitted without a permit on Canada Day between dusk and 1 a.m. Other than the holidays that are listed on the website where a permit is required. So it was fireworks are permitted without a permit. If I was not clear in my articulation, I apologize.
No, I just think my recollection was it was for the long weekend of those 4 long weekends, but we need somebody to clarify it and update it. And maybe if I could ask that something gets posted, I just don't want.
It is Counselor, it is on the website, and it is the weekend prior to Canada Day, weekend after Canada Day.
Okay.
Okay,
So
thank
this
you.
week. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you. We talked about procedurally when I need to talk about these things the other day, Mayor. So I'm going to bring it up now under the announcements because it wasn't going under the updates anymore when we say what's coming up. So just so that if there are still people watching and they haven't tuned out to watch the hockey game yet, because that may have happened, there's a few things happening at our Legion and our library. So I just wanted to remind people in the community that the first Sunday of every month, the Legion holds a jam session and they have a backup band that plays. And they do a little set at the very beginning where all the different musicians will play a piece or two. And then the second half of the event, if you want to come out and try your hand at open mic, you can. And you may or may not hear one of your counselors during the beginning part of the set. I'm not quite sure. Sometimes that's been known to happen though.
It won't be this councillor.
It's David. As well as, again, as a reminder, typically the Ladies Auxiliary hosts their Friday lunches the first Friday of the month, but there's not any LA lunches during the summertime. There is a cornhole tournament coming up at the Legion, and that's on Saturday, the 29th. So coming right up at 1 o'clock. The golf tournament is also coming up in July on the 27th, and there's still spots available, and that's at Western Trent for the Legion, as well as the Ramara Library. I'm not sure if anyone's aware or not, but they are hosting a murder mystery dinner, a catered event. I think tickets are about $65. You can get tickets right at the library, and it's like a murder mystery. I got a trophy last time, but that's okay. I'm going for gold this time.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other announcements and inquiries? So now a request for reports from council members. Yeah, David, you're.
Oh, is that the one that we want for
yeah.
receivables?
On receivables, and there is do we need a motion for that? Yes. You'll move that we get a report.
Yeah, I'd like to get a report knowing exactly what the receivables are.
Yeah, as soon as.
And which
we can
ones you're
have
having
that
problem in
information,
addition with. Yep.
You'll second that? Second by Councillor Goff. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Russ, yes, Councillor
Thank you. I think just based on the deputation we received tonight, if we could have a staff report on some of the things that were talked about as far as, merging properties on title. There were questions around the amount of financing. I think that, based on the meeting, Josh was there obviously, so knows some of the things that were raised. And if we could have a staff report that outlines some of those things. Unless you need more than that, Josh, just based on having been.
Dave? on the staff, yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking, should we not just maybe have it go to the committee of the whole first so we can talk about the options and what we want to do? I don't know what staff could do on a report other than the merging of properties, which I 100% agree on. But I just don't know if we should just have a bigger
Bring all the
discussion.
prices back, you think? Bring it, the whole thing?
The whole thing, and let's
Yeah.
look at it again. And then we get a staff report based on.
That work? That'd
Well,
be better?
I don't know that we would know what we would need to talk about if we didn't have some kind of staff report, because we did have the meeting with the residents. And so a number of different things were talked about. So there was certainly some questions around communication, like they don't, so one of the questions was, 8% was the percentage, I think, that was discussed on a previous expansion. And they had questions around where did the 8% come from? And the response was, that's what council chose. So they have a lot of questions about how is it financed, all those different, and I just wonder, like, we aren't going to be able to have a conversation without knowing what some of the conversations were, whereas having had the meeting, we already know some of those questions.
So we can get the report as well as bring back the information on the pricing.
Well,
Have you got updated pricing yet?
No, because we're in final design, so we won't have exact pricing until we go to tender. So what I could do, I could bring back the 3 reports that were provided last year.
Yep.
And we can discuss them further.
Along with some of the questions that were answered, correct?
Yeah, so the merging on title would limit it to one property essentially.
Yeah, yes.
But the one with the septic on the other side of the road, it should already be merged on title because they have a septic across the road.
Right.
So
It should be one property.
it should be one property.
My septic system's across the road and I still have
It
2.
could still be a
properties.
set, yeah. The trouble is you don't need a septic system anymore. So now that actually becomes a vacant lot that
Yeah,
you can build on.
But even with having a septic on the other side of the road, there should be an agreement for the pipes that are through the road.
Yes,
So yeah.
but we can have a discussion on that too, because we have past evidence, especially with new sewage systems that people have installed. We do have a phase in, or we've done that in the past. Again, it's up to council's
Yeah,
discretion.
I guess
Yeah.
one of the things that I'm thinking about is that, if we're going to put sewers in on this street, that's going to stop us from expanding it even further. And the other thing is, here we are, we just approved the subdivision for 37 homes on Plum Point, but there's no requirement for sewer and water. I don't get why we force it on people who already have septic and water. We've got a brand new subdivision going in
Don't have.
and we're not enforcing it. I mean, we've taken 37 people off water. We put in 37 people.
I'm back on.
I get it. Yeah, whatever.
I-
But whatever, that's fine with what the council wants
Yeah.
to do. Get
Yeah.
a report, we'll tie it all together, we'll discuss it, then we'll go back and get another report as well.
And I think the other piece of it too is with LSRCA, because Elaine felt that LSRCA has said that she can't develop that property across the road, but it is zoned VR, as I said. And I'm not sure, because I don't know if it's what her reasoning is. She said floodplain,
Yeah.
but like that setback is 30 meters. So it's well beyond 30 meters. So I think we would need a bit more information on that as well to
What's
understand.
developable, what is.
Yeah, I think we need to know that so that we can just so that we know. And I think it was clear that what they're looking for is more, just more information. So I think we need that basics. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that we know how to then go back.
All right, so Robin, go ahead. Dale?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know Mr. Kavanaugh is off-site for a significant portion of the rest of this week. We are now going to meet as committee on Tuesday, the 9th. What Mr. Kavanaugh laid out was to bring back 3 previous reports and afford the opportunity for discussion at committee to then make a determination if there is additional report that is required, or whatever the other direction from council would be.
All
But
right.
there's not enough time to be able to spin around and have another report before council, as long as you understand that.
All right,
I guess my only question is, because we don't know timelines, right? So if I don't want us doing a staff report and then we know we're going to come back and ask for another staff report. So then that's another month. Then we have to do whatever deliberation. And I don't know how we're going to impact on infrastructure's ability to move forward, keep moving forward with the project if
Well,
We don't, so that's what I'm worried about, is
So-
just timelines.
so Mr. Mayor, just to be crystal clear, Mr. Kavanaugh does not have capacity
To
to
get
be able to
that
get a
report.
report before you that consolidates the three previous reports, number one. Number two, it was a desire of council to make sure that there's discussion that takes place on those and perhaps additional direction. Last piece is Mr. Kavanaugh's in final design with the consulting engineer. And then how does that fold into the whole piece? Perhaps a little more clarity on the ninth.
I
just want to make sure.
Yeah, we'll
council
get clarity on the 9th, but really when the final design comes in, that's when we have all the numbers and council decides whether or not to go to tender. And that's when we can look at everything then. So why don't we do the one report in the 9th? So we don't need a motion for that, but we do for the next report. First available.
Robin's suggesting that we bring the three reports back at the next.
At the 9th.
And then
Just
we
for an
request.
update, and then we'll wait for the other report that Councillor Bell would like. So it'll be the next available committee of the whole, or when the tenders are done, or when the design is done.
Yeah, so once design's done, because it's already a budgeted item, we typically go to tender, and
Yeah.
from the tender, we'll have construction amounts.
Yeah,
I don't typically bring the tender back to you guys for review before we go out to tender,
I think in this case, everybody wants to see it prior to going to tender.
but it won't have any estimate numbers in it. It'll basically just be the tender of the construction
Oh, I
process.
see.
Because if you're gonna merge lots or allow for exemptions, the price is gonna go up because now you got 10 less people paying for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
in a sense, yes.
Yeah, well, we'll get a report then.
And you won't get those standby fees running by those lots as
Right.
well.
Yeah, so we need that. Well, first we'll get the update next week and then we'll get the first available committee of the whole. We'll get the report. So that's moved by Councillor Bell, second by Councillor Snatch for the report. Yeah, I think we should for the staff report, correct?
I have, it was moved by Councillor Snatch, seconded by Councillor Gobb.
Okay. Oh, we already did that one. No, now we're talking about a staff report on the presentation we had today. And Councillor Bell will move that.
Yeah, and so we're saying that we're going to bring just the initial staff report is going to be bringing us back the survey information and that sort of thing. And then moving on, there'll be a secondary staff report.
Secondary staff report at a future date. Councillor, CEO done? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In speaking with Mr. Kavanaugh, we are back as council on the 29th. Pardon me, 22nd. Depending on what happens on the 9th, there's time to be able to write a summary. It would not go back to committee, but it could theoretically, depending on what the discussion entails, it could be back before you on the 22nd.
All right. Do you need a motion for that then, Jen? Yeah, and so for that, you'll second, moved by Councillor Bell, second by Councillor Goff. Those timelines, if possible, if not, it'll be the next committee of the whole. All in favor? Everybody's clear on that, I think. That is carried. Request for any more reports? Not seeing any. Notice of motion. Don't remember getting any bills and bylaws. And one has been pulled from the agenda, so I don't know if I still have it. The 43 is being pulled from the agenda, correct, Madam Clerk? So that bill. Yeah, 38, sorry, it's yeah, we're pulling the one. Oh, it's already gone, because I did the updated, so it's already gone off my agenda. That was the one with all the
retention
bylaw. That one's been pulled, and there's going to be a report come to committee of the whole first. Councillor Fisher, yes.
Okay, and then I also want to pull 2443. You and I spoke about it earlier
Yes.
this morning.
So why don't we pass that bills number 2024-39, 2024-40, 2024-41, 24-42 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed as bylaws. So just pulling the last one for separate discussion. Moved by Councillor Goff, second by Councillor Fisher. Questions on any of those bylaws?
No.
All in favor? That is carried. 2043, I'm still trying to get updates on. This is the Ramara Road development charges.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask is why would you like that pulled? I have no problem with it. I just wanted to know why.
So
Go ahead, Councillor Fisher, you can start us.
thank you. So it, just trying to read through it, it was pretty ambiguous. So I asked Waleed for further clarification. So he confirmed with Henson And Hempstead may or may not be here because they helped create this bylaw with our former CAO. He said after having two separate discussions with them this afternoon, described to him in different ways, he was still finding it challenging to understand where there might be some credits where we could give credits back, just because we do have some developers who are in the middle of projects and this might change the project significantly. Because every term of council, there's at least some different players. It's vital, in my opinion, that staff fully understand the bylaws. And if it's still ambiguous to Waleed, who's a fairly intelligent fella, I think maybe it just needs a second look, because there is some gray areas, even when I've tried to reread it. So I don't know if Hempson is still here.
Yeah,
And if
the
they
issue
want-
I'm having, the Ramara Road, we're collecting development charge money from people for a sewer and water system that isn't there. And if somebody's building a sewer and water system, why are they paying you development charges towards a sewer and water system that isn't there? Like, it's one thing when you build in Brecken now, you're paying for the sewer and water that were brought to Brecken. That's what, and this is collecting sewer and water charges for a system that's going to be built in the future. So you're not only paying to put in your septic and you're drilling a well, you're also paying towards a future water system. And I just don't see how you're going to pay when you join it. You're going to be hit with the development charges down the road. So it just, somebody's going to have to explain better to me how you can charge in advance for something like that. And at the same time, in this case, some of these developers, they're building a sewer and water system. So go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I believe there's a representative from Hempson that is still online.
Perfect.
I believe they were a short time ago.
I may want to move this to a committee of the whole for discussion anyway. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I can't remember your name. I apologize. Andrew, yes.
Thanks, Mayor. Both Jacqueline Hall and myself are online from Hempson. So the background study provides for the a new water and waste or new system to service the development of those lands. And if the developer is constructing a piece of infrastructure that would be of the same service in terms of providing water and wastewater, they might be eligible for credits depending on the type of infrastructure that they're building, so that you wouldn't be effectively double dipping in terms of the collection process. However, there are, in terms of the crediting system, it is subject to the terms of the agreement and obviously relative to the infrastructure, if it is similar to what is being proposed in the background study itself.
I see. So an individual just building a house on that lands, owned 100 acres and wanted to build a house. Are they putting in a septic? They're putting in a well. They're still paying the development charges towards a future water project?
So anybody developing in that particular area, they would be paying the development charge if you're building a new house.
Right.
Correct. And if it's in the serviced area within the development, within the map, then they would pay the development charge itself. Correct.
But when are we hooking them up? Like, you're asking somebody for $30,000, say, for sewer and water, and it's not coming for 20 years. Does that mean in 20 years? So when we hook up, they're hooked up free now because they paid, even though they put a well and a septic in? That's the issue I'm having with it, when you're collecting development charges prior to having a system in place.
But the intention is that there is going to be a system to construct. And part of the issue is with the development charges and the new framework is that if developers are going to be pulling permits in that area and constructing and assuming servicing, they might be in a transition period in which they'll get their rates frozen at zero. And then those developers and those units aren't going to be paying for the infrastructure or contributing to the system cost because of the way the legislation is out. So the intention with the discussion with staff to put in a bylaw to support that future development when it comes online, and that it's serviced with water and wastewater. There is opportunities in terms of the crediting system, in terms of how you want to structure that in relation to any municipal act charges that will be for existing users connecting into the system, but that's still somewhat different from what's under the development charges bylaw.
Yeah. All right. Councillor Snutch, do you have a question?
I just think, I think we did the right thing here tonight by putting a couple in on the two and then leaving the other one. I think we need more discussions. I have to get my head around exactly what you're trying to
Yeah.
understand.
So I'm gonna have to have this come to a committee of the whole where it can be explained a little better to me, and then before proceeding that, so I would be looking to defer it if that's,
I think we already did.
well, we pulled it. We haven't done anything. Yeah. And sorry, Andrew, I know you sat here, you're probably, well, maybe you got the game on in the background, but but I think we're gonna need a report and more detail on this one when it comes back to a committee of the whole. Yeah, how time sensitive is, well, it's whenever development comes in that area. So I like the fact that you've got credits there. If somebody's building a system that we can utilize, so the pipes are there and they're up to the grade of what we want. Then they would get credits and they would tee in. But I'm worried about the individuals that are just building that are now like can't build because they wouldn't be able to afford it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and that's fair. This is a, to be clear, this is a new bylaw and in a
Yeah.
new area. So the Brecken Lagoon City and Bayshore Village one, that's an existing bylaw that has an expiry date. This is new. So if there is an opportunity you needed to defer it, you could. I do just caution that if there's development proceeding and there's applications coming in, they would be subject to the parameters of the DCA in which they would be subject to no DC. So there's obviously some due diligence on your part, making sure that we understand the bylaws that are going in, and that's okay. But recognizing you don't want to be on the putting in something that is deferred too long, in which people aren't contributing to the proper infrastructure needs.
All right. We're gonna defer it to our next committee of the whole and get a report on this bylaw. I know it's pretty full schedule, but we can handle it. Looking over at the CAO. This would be under Waleed, I think. Anyway,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just communicating with the director right now.
All right, perfect. So I'd look for a motion moved by Councillor Goff to defer, second by Councillor Snutch. All in favor, that is carried. And thank you for coming tonight to help some of our questions, but unfortunately you gave me more. So we'll get a report, we'll have a read, hopefully get some of my questions answered in the report, and then have you back to help explain it. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
I appreciate you just taking the time tonight to be here. Okay, I think that's all I have on the agenda then. So that bylaw 2024-55, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the 24th day of June 2024 be considered read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Moved by Councillor Snutch, second by Councillor Tuyu. All in favor? That is carried. And last, that we now adjourn at 8:43 p.m. until July 22nd. 2024 at 7. Moved by Councillor Fisher. She's upset. Second by the deputy mayor. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everybody. Bye.